O fools. Oh, zoomy, oh, fools. You must read the text and understand the text and not impose your thinking on the text. You must read the text, you understand the text, and not impose your thinking on the text or impose your thinking on the text. Now, how important is it for me to know the meaning of a text? Because you know your knowledge of the word, which is your knowledge of the text, is your worship of God. Your knowledge of the word, which is your knowledge of the text, is your worship of God. That is how important is it for you to know the meaning of a text. Your knowledge of the word, which is your knowledge of the text, is your worship of God. You cannot worship God beyond what you know. You cannot worship God beyond what you know. Some people, all they know is money. The God they know is money. They don't know any God outside money. You see that? That's why some people will say that the devil does not fear a man that prays like he fears a man that has money. Because the God they know is money. Bible says whose God is their stomach. Bible says you cannot serve God and mammon. So you're either serving God or you're serving mammon.
It is written here, if you obey and serve God, you will prosper. You will prosper. You will prosper. So poverty is a sign of ungodliness. To be poor means there is sin in your life. Unfortunately, people think it is those that are rich that have sin in their life. Never trust the holiness of a poor man.
I've never done anything like this before. But there's something very wicked, something very antichrist about this that dares me to be so bold.
Some people, their God is money. They don't see God beyond money. Filthy lucre. Otherwise, how can somebody say that you cannot be claimed to be righteous if you are poor? That there is no poor man that is holy. That there is no poor man that is holy. So holiness is synonymous with money. In fact, somebody sent me a video where a preacher in this country said that if Jesus was rich, he wouldn't have died. That Jesus died because he was poor. That is an insult to the work of redemption. That is a total assault on the gospel. And those useless Supreme Council of hypocrites will not call such a person out because they are members of that cabal where money is their God. When people like us preach Christ, they attack us because they are far from Christ, whose God is their stomach. How can somebody say that Jesus died because he didn't have money? That they used 30 pieces of silver to kill him? That if he was rich, it wouldn't have succeeded. He is even worse than Peter, who said, Jesus, you will not die. And Jesus said, get thee behind me, Satan, because you are an offense to the things of God. You serve not the things that be of God. So Jesus came to the earth not to die or what? And that is a message in an entire convention. Global convention. That if Jesus had money, that when Joseph of Arimathea showed up, who was a billionaire, he told Herod, I know that guy is my guy. Herod said, oh, we didn't know you know him. We wouldn't have killed him. Anyway, we are sorry for killing him. You can have his body. That it took a millionaire to just collect the body and bury it. These people, I don't know whether they even read Bible. Or they just read village parables. Or village tales by moonlight. Jesus came to the earth to die. Ought not Christ, oh fools, oh zoomy, oh fools, slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? Jesus said, the poor you will always have. The poor you will always have. I'm sure they have not read in the book of Revelation where Jesus spoke to them through the angel and said, because you thought you are rich, because you thought you've acquired things, he said, but you don't know that you are naked, you are wretched, you are poor, you are blind. He said, because you thought you have acquired material things, you've acquired all kinds of cars, all kinds of money, you have lied to God's people, emptied their pocket, collected all their monies, and used it to build a luxurious life for yourself at the expense of their own living. You do not know that you are wretched. You are poor, you are blind. Revelation 3:17. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increase with goods, and have need of nothing. And thou knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. Look at the next verse. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich. Sitting to hear me teach this morning is the greatest wealth you can ever have. That thou mayest be rich and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with oil salve, that thou mayest see. Whoever is the spiritual father of such pastors needs to cover his face in shame and call them to the backyard in the kitchen and take them through class 101, in fact 001. So they stop disgracing him. Well, I don't blame them. Some of them, the father is as bad as the sons. So you can't worship God beyond what you know. So you can't worship God beyond what you know. That's what took us into that journey. You can't worship God beyond what you know. Somebody told me somebody somewhere is challenging the position I had when I said the California fires are not the judgment of God. And the preacher is telling a story that when the California, when they don't know Bible, they use stories.
I was watching an encounter that somebody had in Los Angeles during this fire. I was shocked. And yet, a preacher is saying in Nigeria that pastors who are saying California is burning because of sin, that is a lie, that the sin in Nigeria is worse than the one of California. Well, that is flesh and blood talk. You get my point? It's flesh and blood talk. A firefighter who was among those that were quenching the fire in California, a born-again child of God. The fire caught up with him when they were trying to rescue a family. And he was driving the truck, and the fire caught up with them, and he passed out. So when he passed out, he saw his spirit out of his body, and he had a lengthy encounter where he met the Lord. And he stood in the Lord, in the realm he was with the Lord. The Lord pointed the fire and showed him. And he looked at the fire. He saw creatures in the fire that were behind the fire. I told you there are demons of fire. So creatures in the fire, and they were pulling the fire it was consuming houses. They were pulling it, and Jesus told him that those are the creatures of darkness, that the wickedness of the people living in those cities have fed. And somebody standing in Nigeria and talking nonsense. You see, these people, they are just...
They use stories, vain philosophy, idle fancies, high-sounding nonsense. Paul said, though an angel or we come from heaven and preach anything to you other than what has been preached, he said, let us be anathema. He said one of the persons in the California fire had a vision, and his conclusion of God's judgment on California was the vision of a man. Look how empty he is. Very empty. Doting about nothing. Have you ever seen where God destroyed the righteous and the unrighteous? In the entire Bible. Even in the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, God said, no, I cannot destroy the righteous with the unrighteous. If I find 5 righteous, I will not destroy the city. Are you telling me there are no 5 righteous people in California? What's wrong? Do you think at all? Anaginosko. Are you reading without paying attention? God has never destroyed the righteous with the unrighteous. Moreover, today is the day of salvation. There can be no destruction in the day of salvation. Today is the accepted time. Today is the day of God's grace and favors that profusely abound. Today is the day of jubilee. And it's not the will of God for anybody to perish. So God is allowing, God is long suffering, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. And God has no pleasure in the death of the wicked. So we are sent to carry the gospel and keep preaching it until all the nations of the earth are blessed. But one day will come when the day of grace will be over. And that will be the end of the age. And that is where judgment begins. If I'm teaching, say I hear you. We say, come, let us teach you Bible. You are doing gra-gra. Little boys will be correcting you now. I'm being merciful to correct you like this. You can't worship God beyond what you know. So where there is ignorance, there will be error in worship. Where there is ignorance, there will be error in worship. Just like we saw the practice of feet washing. And we read from John chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 6. And by the time we got to John chapter 13, it was easy to understand that Jesus did not ask us to carry bowls of water and be washing the legs of church members. Now those who do it will assume they are worshiping God, but they are not. No matter what they call it, because that's not what Jesus was saying. The age of a lie doesn't make it the truth. The age of a lie doesn't make it the truth. A lie is a lie forever. It will never become truth, no matter who is carrying it. No matter who is peddling it. A lie is a lie perpetually. It never changes. So if there is error in your knowledge, there is error in your worship. If there is error in your knowledge of God, there is error in your worship. That's why Paul will say, brethren, my heart's desire for Israel is that they may be saved. For I bear them record that they have the zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. So they are doing everything exactly backward. They have refused to come to terms that salvation is God's pure business. And they have refused to worship God according to his own terms. According to his own terms.